Have you ever caught yourself scrolling on your phone, wishing you were reading a book instead, but not sure how to make the switch? You're not alone. For a long time, I found myself in the same place, tired of wasting hours on my phone, wanting to enjoy reading again, but always falling back into old habits. The more I tried to force myself to read, the more I felt stuck. If you're picking up this book, you might know that feeling too. No More Scroll was written for anyone who misses the joy of getting lost in a good book, but feels trapped by endless feeds and notifications. The truth is, it's not just a matter of willpower or discipline. Our phones and apps are designed to grab our attention and keep us hooked, making it harder than ever to focus on things that truly matter, like reading. This book is here to show you a better way. Inside, you'll find simple explanations for why scrolling feels so addictive and what's happening in your brain when it happens. You'll learn easy steps to break the scrolling habit, not by trying harder, but by changing your environment and routines so that reading feels easier and more enjoyable. I'll share the reading stack, a method for always having the right book for your mood, and quick tips for building reading back into your life even if you feel too busy or tired. You don't need to become a perfect reader, and you don't need to feel guilty for struggling with distraction. The goal of this book is to help you take back control of your attention and rediscover the pleasure of reading, one small step at a time. By making a few simple changes, you can turn reading into something you naturally reach for, even when your phone is close by. If you're ready to enjoy books again and make reading a real part of your daily life, you're in the right place. Let's begin your new reading journey together, one page at a time. Chapter 1, No More Scroll. You are losing a war you didn't even know you were fighting. It happens in the quiet moments of your day, in the spaces between tasks, in the last hour before sleep. You pick up your phone with the innocent intention of checking a message or looking up a fact, and suddenly you are gone. Your thumb takes over. It swipes up, and up again, moving with a rhythmic, automatic precision that bypasses your conscious mind entirely. You intended to spend 5 minutes. You spent 45. You emerge from the trance feeling wired yet strangely empty, your focus fractured, your time evaporated. This is not a character flaw. This is not a lack of willpower. This is a battlefield, and currently you are the casualty. If you are reading this, you already know the sensation of the scroll hole. You know the low-grade guilt that settles in your chest when you realize you have consumed hours of content you will not remember tomorrow. You know the frustration of looking at a book you genuinely want to read, and feeling a repulsive friction, a sense that it is too slow, too dense, too demanding for your fried attention span. You are here because you want to stop being a spectator in your own life and start being the pilot. You are here because you suspect that the ability to read deeply is not just a hobby, but a superpower in a distracted world. You are right, and we are going to fix it. The casino in your pocket. To understand why you lose hours to the feed, you must stop viewing your phone as a communication tool and start viewing it as a slot machine. The mechanism that keeps you scrolling is identical to the one that keeps a gambler pulling the lever. It is called a variable reward schedule. When you pull down to refresh, you do not know what you are going to get. It might be a boring ad, a photo of someone's lunch, or it might be a piece of news that enrages you, a meme that makes you laugh, or a message that makes you feel validated. Your brain does not crave the content, it craves the unpredictability. Every time your thumb moves, your dopamine receptors fire in anticipation of a potential reward. It is a chemical loop: cue, action, reward. The cue is boredom or stress, the action is the scroll, the reward is the tiny, fleeting hit of novelty. The problem is that this loop is engineered by thousands of the smartest engineers and behavioral psychologists in the world, all working to keep you on the platform for just one more second. You are bringing a knife to a nuclear gunfight. The winners in this new economy are the ones who control their inputs. They understand that attention is a finite resource, more valuable than money. If you waste money, you can earn more. If you waste your attention, you have wasted a slice of your consciousness that you will never get back. The losers are the ones who drift. They allow the algorithm to dictate their emotional state. They let a feed of infinite, context-free noise displace their own thoughts. They trade the deep, compounding returns of reading for the shallow, vanishing returns of scrolling. When you overscroll, you are not just wasting time. You are actively training your brain to be intolerant of boredom and incapable of sustained focus. You are teaching your mind that the moment things get difficult or slow, a hit of dopamine is just a swipe away. This is why books feel so hard. Reading is slow. It requires you to do the work of visualization and synthesis. It offers a delayed reward, understanding, meaning, connection, rather than an instant one. But because your brain has been conditioned for speed, the slowness of a page feels like pain. The erosion of your mind. If you do not intervene, this erosion accelerates. Attention is like a muscle, and right now, yours is atrophying. We often talk about losing the ability to read, as if it were a set of keys we misplaced. You haven't lost it, you have weakened it through neglect and actively damaged it through misuse. Consider the long-term cost of this weakness. A decade of scrolling leaves you with nothing. You will not look back in 10 years and say, "I am so glad I watched those 40,000 short videos." The content is designed to be disposable. It flows through you like water through a sieve, leaving no residue of wisdom or perspective. Contrast this with a decade of reading. A book is a mind-altering technology. It allows you to download decades of someone else's experience in a few hours. When you read, you are building a complex mental architecture. You are strengthening your ability to hold conflicting ideas, to follow long arguments, to empathize with people who are not you. This is cognitive stamina. If you continue on the current path, the "I am not a reader" identity will calcify. You will begin to believe that this fractured, anxious, distracted version of yourself is the permanent version. You will accept the loser mindset, which says, "This is just how the world is now, and I am a victim of it." You will resign yourself to a life of low-grade stress, constantly reacting to the urgency of the now, never stepping back to view the long arc of the true. But the most terrifying consequence is not that you won't be smart, it is that you won't be you. When you spend your life consuming algorithmic feeds, your thoughts, your desires, and your worldview are being subtly shaped by code designed to maximize engagement, not truth. If you do not choose your inputs, the algorithm chooses your output. You become a mimic, repeating the outrage of the day, thinking the thoughts you were fed, living a script written by a machine. The architecture of a reader. This book is your exit strategy. It is not a collection of vague tips about digital detoxing. It is a systematic reconstruction of your reading life. We are going to take the same psychological principles that the apps use to hook you, cues, ease of access, rewards, and we are going to rig them in your favor. We are going to build a system where reading becomes the path of least resistance. By the end of this process, you will not just be reading more. You will have built a no-scroll reading routine that operates on autopilot. You will learn to design a reading stack that caters to every energy level, so you never have the excuse of being too tired to read. You will discover the concept of the anchor book to stretch your mind and the comfort corner to soothe your nervous system. You will learn to utilize micro-reading to reclaim the dead time in your day, turning waiting rooms and queues into opportunities for progress. You will create a momentum loop where finishing one book naturally propels you into the next, creating a chain of literacy that is harder to break than it is to maintain. Imagine a life where your default response to boredom is not to check a screen, but to turn a page. Imagine feeling a sense of calm authority over your own mind. Imagine the compounding interest of knowledge, where every book you read connects to the others, building a lattice of understanding that makes you better at your job, more present in your relationships, and more grounded in your self-worth. This is the difference between the winner and the loser. The loser hopes their attention span will magically return. The winner builds a system to ensure it does. The loser treats reading as a chore, a should that hangs over their head. The winner treats reading as a high-performance training ground for the life they want to lead. The first step is awareness. We are going to move through this transformation in a specific order. First, we must expose the trap. You cannot out-hustle a system you do not see. We need to strip away the shame. Shame is a useless emotion here, and replace it with cold, hard analysis of your triggers. Next, we will focus on environment over willpower. Willpower is a battery that runs out. Environment is the gravity that pulls you constantly. Winners do not rely on being strong, they rely on being smart. They design their physical and digital spaces so that the read instead choice is easier than the scroll choice. Then, we will build the system. We will move away from the intimidating idea of reading a book and toward the flexible, dynamic approach of maintaining a stack. We will shatter the perfectionism that says you need a quiet hour and a cup of tea to read, and instead teach you to be a guerrilla reader who steals moments from the chaos of modern life. Finally, we will lock in the identity. Behavior change that doesn't reach the level of identity never lasts. You will stop trying to read and simply be a reader. Choose your side. This is your line in the sand. You have to decide right now that your attention is sacred. It is the only thing you truly own. Every time you scroll, you are selling it for pennies. Every time you read, you are investing it for gold. The world is noisy, chaotic, and aggressive in its demands for your eyes. It will not leave you alone. If you do not build a fortress for your focus, it will be overrun. The loser mindset shrugs and says, "It's just entertainment. It doesn't matter." The winner mindset knows that what you feed your mind determines the quality of your life. You are standing at a fork in the road. Down one path lies another year of brain fog, of hours lost to the void, of that sinking feeling that you are skimming the surface of existence. Down the other path lies depth. Down the other path lies the thrill of new ideas, the comfort of great stories, and the immense self-respect that comes from taking back control of the controls. You are ready to stop scrolling. You are ready to start turning pages. But before we can build your new life, we have to look the enemy in the eye. We have to go deep into the mechanics of the trap itself. You might think you know why you are addicted to your feed, but the reality is far more calculated and chemical than you realize. There is a specific trigger, a hidden hook buried in the code of your favorite apps that bypasses your logic and speaks directly to your lizard brain. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. And once you see it, the spell begins to break. Let's open the hood. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2: Feed Addiction. You unlock your phone to check the weather. It is a simple, innocent task that should take 5 seconds. 20 minutes later, you are watching a video of a hydraulic press crushing a rubber duck or reading a heated argument between two strangers about a movie you have never seen. You blink, disoriented, wondering where the time went. You feel a strange mix of stimulation and exhaustion, a mental fog that hovers behind your eyes. You didn't choose to do this. It just happened. This phenomenon is not a glitch in your character. It is a feature of the machine. If you want to reclaim your attention and turn reading into your default state, you first have to understand exactly what you are up against. You are not fighting a fair fight. You are stepping into a ring with a heavyweight champion of distraction, an opponent engineered by some of the smartest minds in human history to do one specific thing: keep your eyes on the screen. The reason you feel tired, empty, and strangely behind after a scrolling session is not because you are lazy. It is because you have been harvested. The invisible puppeteer. We need to shatter a dangerous illusion right now. Most people believe that their distraction is accidental. They think they just happen to get sidetracked. But the feed is not a passive library of content waiting for you to browse it. It is an active predatory system. Every color, every notification sound, every pull to refresh animation has been A/B tested against millions of users to maximize the amount of time you spend in the app. Your distraction is the product, your time is the revenue. When you pit a book against a social media feed, you are pitting a static object against a dynamic supercomputer. The book sits there, patient and quiet, requiring you to bring your own focus and imagination to the table. The feed, however, reaches out and grabs you. It plays on your deepest psychological vulnerabilities. It knows what triggers your outrage, what sparks your curiosity, and what keeps you tapping. If you treat this as a battle of willpower, you will lose every single time. You cannot out-willpower an algorithm that processes billions of data points to predict your next move. This realization should not depress you. It should liberate you. Once you accept that scrolling is an engineered trap rather than a personal moral failing, you can stop feeling guilty and start getting strategic. Shame is a useless emotion here. Shame makes you hide. Strategy makes you win. You don't need to be a better person to stop scrolling. You just need to understand the mechanics of the trap so you can dismantle it. The slot machine mechanic. Let's look at the engine under the hood. Why is the feed so much more addictive than a book? Why does your brain crave the glowing rectangle even when you know it makes you miserable? The answer lies in a concept from behavioral psychology called variable rewards. Imagine a slot machine. If you pulled the lever and won $10 every single time, you would get bored very quickly. If you pulled the lever and never won anything, you would walk away. But if you pull the lever and sometimes win $10, sometimes win nothing, and sometimes win $1,000, you will keep pulling that lever until you are bankrupt. Your phone is the world's most efficient slot machine. When you feel the urge to check your feed, it is not because you want to see a specific photo or read a specific post. It is because you want to see what might be there. It is the maybe that hooks you. Maybe there is a message. Maybe there is breaking news. Maybe there is something funny. This uncertainty triggers a massive release of dopamine in your brain. Crucially, dopamine is not the molecule of pleasure. It is the molecule of craving and anticipation. Your brain floods with dopamine before you see the content, driving you to perform the action. The content itself, the actual video or post, is often disappointing. But that doesn't matter. The loop has already completed, and your brain is already priming you for the next pull of the lever. Books operate on a completely different psychological frequency. They offer consistent, delayed rewards. You have to work for the payoff. There is no maybe in a book. The text is fixed. This is why, when your brain is high on the slot machine loop of the feed, a book feels agonizingly slow. You are trying to switch from a high-speed, high-dopamine environment to a slow-speed, stable reward environment. Your brain rebels because it has been trained to expect the jackpot, not the journey. The attention hangover. The cost of this addiction is not just the time you lose, it is the state of mind you are left in. We have all experienced the attention hangover. It is that restless, wired, yet deeply exhausted feeling that sets in after 45 minutes of doomscrolling. Your mind feels fractured, like a mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. This happens because you have bombarded your nervous system with context switching. In the span of 2 minutes, you might process a tragedy, a comedy sketch, a recipe, and an advertisement. Your brain is forced to rapidly reorient its emotional state with every swipe. It is cognitive whiplash. When you finally put the phone down and try to do something deep, like reading a complex book or engaging in a serious conversation, you find that you can't. You don't have the stamina. You feel anxious, as if you are missing something because the silence of the real world feels empty compared to the screaming noise of the digital one. This is the fog. It is a state of low-grade anxiety where deep thought becomes impossible. If you stay in this loop long enough, you start to believe that you are just an anxious person, or that you used to be smart but have lost your edge. You haven't lost your intelligence. You are just hungover. And like any hangover, the cure isn't more of the poison. It's a detox and a return to real sustenance. The lies that keep you scrolling. To break free, we must confront the myths we tell ourselves to justify the habit. These are the defense mechanisms your addiction uses to protect itself. The first myth is the myth of willpower. You tell yourself, I just need to be stronger. Tomorrow I will just choose not to scroll. This is a lie. Willpower is a finite resource. It drains throughout the day. By 8 p.m., your willpower tank is empty, and the algorithm is just getting started. Relying on willpower to fight a friction-free, engineered system is a strategy for losers. Winners don't try to resist temptation, they remove it. The second myth is the myth of educational scrolling. This is the most dangerous one for smart people. You tell yourself, I'm not wasting time, I'm learning. I follow educational accounts. You are not learning, you are consuming trivia. Real learning requires synthesis, reflection, and depth. Watching a 60-second video about history is not the same as reading a history book. Fragmented information gives you the illusion of competence. You feel like you know things, but because you haven't done the cognitive work to connect the dots, that information evaporates almost instantly. It is mental snacking, and it ruins your appetite for the meal. The third myth is the myth of control. I can quit anytime. It's not that bad. If you could quit anytime, you would have done it by now. The fact that you minimize the problem is proof that the habit has dug its claws in. You need to look at your screen time data. The numbers do not lie. If you are spending 3 hours a day on your phone, that is 21 hours a week. That is a part-time job. You are working a part-time job for a tech company for free, and your payment is anxiety. Breaking the circuit. So how do we dismantle a machine that is designed to be dismantled proof? We start by mapping the loop. Every habit follows a specific structure: cue, action, reward. You need to become a scientist of your own behavior. What is your cue? Is it boredom? Is it the stress of a difficult email? Is it the physical sensation of sitting on the couch? For most people, the cue is a micro moment of negative emotion. You feel a tiny twinge of loneliness or boredom, and before you can even register the feeling, your thumb is moving. The action is the scroll. The reward is the distraction, the momentary relief from that negative feeling. To break this, you must insert a wedge of consciousness into the loop. We call this the 10-second pause. The next time you feel the urge to unlock your phone, stop. Do not touch the screen. Count to 10. Ask yourself a single question. What am I actually looking for right now? Are you looking for connection? The feed won't give you that. Are you looking for rest? The feed will drain you. Are you looking for entertainment? A book does it better. This pause disrupts the automaticity of the habit. It forces the lizard brain to hand control back to the prefrontal cortex. You will often find that just by asking the question, the urge dissipates, or at least becomes manageable. You realize that you aren't actually curious about the news. You are just trying to avoid the laundry. Once you have interrupted the loop, you can redesign it. You keep the cue, boredom, but you swap the action. Instead of scrolling, you read. You replace the cheap variable reward of the feed with the deep, stable reward of a paragraph. But to make this work, you have to rig the game. Rigging the game. You cannot trust your future self to make the right decision. You have to make the decision for them in advance. This means manipulating friction. Currently, your phone is a friction-free zone. Face ID unlocks it instantly. The apps are right there on the home screen. The notifications pull you in. It is a greased slide straight into the slot machine. You need to pour sand on that slide. Move your social apps off the home screen. Bury them in a folder on the last page. Better yet, log out of them every time you use them. If you have to type in your password every time you want to check the feed, you will stop checking it mindlessly. Turn off every single notification that is not a direct message from a human being. If an app can buzz your pocket, it owns you. Simultaneously, you must remove the friction from reading. Most people make reading hard. The book is on a shelf in the other room. The Kindle is out of battery. If reading takes 30 seconds to start and scrolling takes 1 second, scrolling wins. You need to reverse this. Keep a book open on your coffee table. Put the Kindle app on your home screen where Instagram used to be. Make it so that reading is the path of least resistance. We also need to track the truth. Your brain will lie to you about how much you scroll. It will tell you it was just a few minutes. Use a tracker. Write it down. When you see 2 hours written on a piece of paper, it becomes real. It becomes a data point that you can attack. The fork in the road. As you begin to apply these changes, you will encounter resistance. Your brain will throw a tantrum. It will demand its dopamine hit. You might find yourself staring at a wall, feeling an intense, restless boredom. This is good. This is the withdrawal. If you push through this phase, 2 paths emerge. The first path is the trap of substitution. You delete the social apps, but you replace them with mobile games or endless news browsing. You swap one mindless loop for another. You must be vigilant against this. The goal is not just to get off the social feed. The goal is to reclaim your capacity for depth. The second path is the breakthrough. You cut your scrolling by 20 minutes, then 30, then an hour. You start to feel the fog lift. You pick up a book, and for the first time in years, you don't feel the urge to check your phone after 3 pages. You sink into the story. The attention hangover clears, replaced by a calm, steady focus. You start to finish books. You start to feel like the pilot again. But knowing the mechanics of the trap is only the preparation. You have mapped the enemy territory, and you have stopped the bleeding. Now, you need an offensive strategy. You need a weapon that you can carry with you into the chaos of daily life. A simple, unbreakable rule that overrides the impulse to scroll the moment it strikes. You need a way to turn that split second of boredom not just into not scrolling, but into immediate, effortless reading. We have cleared the ground. Now we're going to build the replacement engine. It starts with 2 words that will change everything. Chapter 3. Read instead. You are standing in line at the grocery store. The person in front of you is fumbling with coupons. You feel it, that familiar, itching twitch in your fingers. You have 30 seconds of boredom and your brain is screaming for a pacifier. Your hand drifts automatically to your pocket. You are about to unlock your phone, check a notification, and vanish from the physical world. Stop. This specific moment, right here, is the battleground. It is not the hours you spend reading on a Sunday afternoon that define you as a reader. It is what you do in these tiny, friction-filled gaps of reality. You are about to learn the single most powerful mechanic for reclaiming your life. It is not about willpower. It is not about digital detoxing or throwing your phone in a lake. It is about a simple, ruthless substitution. We are going to install a new reflex in your nervous system. We're going to take that automatic urge to scroll and hotwire it to a different output. From now on, when the urge hits, you don't resist. You don't fight. You just read instead. The vacuum of willpower. Most people fail to quit scrolling because they try to achieve it through suppression. They tell themselves, "I will not check my phone." They stare at the wall, white-knuckling their way through the boredom, trying to force their brain to accept a vacuum. But the brain hates a vacuum. It hates empty space. If you take away the dopamine hit of the feed and replace it with nothing, your brain will revolt. It will nag you, distract you, and eventually wear you down until you relapse. Suppression is a strategy for losers. It assumes that you can fight your own biology forever. You can't. Winners understand that you cannot destroy a habit loop. You can only overwrite it. You need to keep the cue, the boredom, the stress, the waiting, and you need to keep the reward, the distraction, the engagement. You just need to swap the action in the middle. This is why Read Instead works where stop scrolling fails. You are not depriving yourself of stimulation. You are upgrading the quality of the stimulation. Think about the sheer volume of time you bleed out in 5-minute increments. The time before a meeting starts, the time waiting for the kettle to boil, the time in the bathroom. These moments are currently dead zones, filled with algorithmic junk. If you convert even half of them into reading time, you are not just saving time, you are altering the trajectory of your mind. You are turning the wasted debris of your day into the building blocks of your intelligence. The Read Instead protocol. The core of this chapter is a single, non-negotiable rule. You need to burn this into your mind until it becomes a mantra. The rule is, when I want to scroll, I read first. Notice the phrasing. It doesn't say, I will never scroll again. It says that reading comes first. It is a gateway. If you want to check Instagram, fine, but you have to read one page of a book before you do. If you want to browse the news, go ahead, but you have to read 3 paragraphs of an article you saved earlier. You will find that a strange thing happens. The moment you engage with a book, even for 30 seconds, the frantic, itching urge to scroll evaporates. The book satisfies the brain's need for engagement, but it does so in a way that grounds you rather than scattering you. Often, you will read that one required page and realize you don't actually want to open the app anymore. You keep reading. You have successfully hijacked the loop. But a rule is useless if the environment fights it. Currently, your environment is designed for scrolling. Your phone is in your hand. Your apps are one tap away. Your books are on a shelf in another room, closed and gathering dust. In a contest between a 1-second action scrolling and a 20-second action finding a book, the 1-second action wins every time. We have to flip the friction. We need to make scrolling annoying and reading effortless. This means physically restructuring your space. If you doom scroll in bed, put a book on your pillow every morning so you have to physically move it to get into bed at night. If you scroll at your desk, put a book on top of your laptop when you close it. You are creating a physical speed bump that reminds you of the rule. The 3 great lies. As you try to implement this, your brain will offer up excuses. These are not reasons. They are defense mechanisms designed to keep you in the comfort zone of the feed. You need to recognize them and dismantle them immediately. The first lie is the myth of motivation. You think, I'll read when I feel like reading. You are waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration. It is never coming. Motivation is not the cause of action. It is the result of action. You don't read because you are motivated. You become motivated because you are reading. The read instead rule forces you to start before you feel ready. The feeling follows the action. The second lie is the myth of time. I don't have time to read. This is the most laughable excuse of all. If you have time to check your phone 20 times a day, you have time to read. You are not lacking time. You are lacking allocation. You are pouring your time into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. When you say I don't have time, what you really mean is I have prioritized low-value distraction over high-value focus. Own that choice or change it. The third lie is the myth of seriousness. You might think that reading means tackling a dense philosophy tome or a complex history book. So when you are tired and just want to relax, you think, I can't read right now, I need something light, and you open the feed. This is a trap. Reading does not have to be heavy. Read a comic book, read a trashy thriller, read a magazine about woodworking. The goal of Read Instead is not to make you a professor. It is to break the addiction to the scroll. If you replace Instagram with a graphic novel, you have won. You have reclaimed your attention. The heavy stuff can come later. Rigging your reality. To make this work, you need a toolkit. You cannot rely on hunting for something to read when the urge strikes. By the time you find a book, the urge will have passed, and you will be back on your phone. You need to prepare your Read Instead options in advance. You need a low-energy option for when you are exhausted, something fun, easy, and gripping. You need a high-energy option for when you are alert and want to learn. And crucially, you need an always-ready option, which usually means an audiobook or an ebook app on your phone. Yes, you can use your phone to fight your phone. Move your social media apps into a buried folder or delete them entirely. Put your reading app, Kindle, Audible, whatever you use, in the prime spot on your home screen. When your thumb automatically flies to that spot, let it land on a book. Start small. Do not try to overhaul your entire life in one day. Pick your biggest scroll window. For most people, this is the 30 minutes before sleep or the first 20 minutes of the morning. Draw a circle around that time. Make a blood oath with yourself. In this window, I read instead. If you wake up and reach for your phone, open a book app. If you get into bed, pick up the paperback on your nightstand. Win this one window, and you prove to yourself that you are in control. The one-page Trojan horse. There is a psychological trick that makes this infinitely easier. It is called the one-page rule. The hardest part of reading is starting. The inertia is heavy. The idea of reading a whole chapter feels like work. So, lower the bar. Tell yourself, I only have to read one page. Anyone can read one page. It takes 2 minutes. It is too small to say no to. This is a Trojan horse. You smuggle the habit in under the guise of a tiny commitment. Once you read that first page, the friction disappears. You are in the world of the book. You will almost always read 2 pages, then 5, then 10. But even if you don't, even if you truly only read 1 page, you have still succeeded. You have reinforced the neural pathway that says, when I am bored, I read. You have cast a vote for your new identity. Use visual anchors to remind you of this commitment. Change your phone's lock screen to a plain background with the text "Read instead." Every time you light up your screen, you are confronted with your own intention. It interrupts the trance. It gives you that split second of consciousness you need to make the better choice. The new default. When you practice this consistently, something shifts. At first, it feels like effort. You have to catch yourself, stop your hand, and force the redirection. It feels clunky, but slowly the friction wears down. You reach a point where the read instead reflex becomes automatic. You feel a moment of downtime, and your hand goes to the book, not the phone. You start to crave the continuity of the story you are reading more than the chaos of the feed. You realize that you are finishing a book every week, not because you are speed reading, but because you are utilizing the time you used to waste. This is the excellent outcome. You are no longer fighting the urge, you have transformed it. You are walking around with a library in your head instead of a newsfeed. You feel a quiet, simmering pride. You are the person who reads. You are the person who has escaped the matrix of constant distraction. When the system jams, there will be days when this fails. You will be stressed, tired, or emotionally raw, and you will find yourself 3 clicks deep into a clickbait article before you even realize what happened. Do not spiral into guilt. Guilt is just another form of self-indulgence. If you drift back, catch it, acknowledge it. Okay, I'm scrolling. Then immediately apply the rule. I will read 1 paragraph right now. Sometimes the pull of the phone is too strong because it is physically too close. If you are trying to read and you keep glancing at your device, you need to separate them. Put the phone in another room. Put it in a drawer. If you are reading on your phone and the notifications are popping up, turn on Do Not Disturb. You cannot expect your focus to survive if it is being poked every 10 seconds. Other times, you will fail because the book you are trying to read is boring. You are trying to force yourself to read something impressive when you are exhausted. Stop it. If you dread picking up the book, you will scroll. Switch to something easier. Switch to something that grabs you by the throat. The goal is the habit, not the prestige. But here is the catch. You can have the perfect rule, the perfect environment, and the perfect one-page trick. You can successfully stop scrolling and pick up a book. But if that book is the wrong tool for your current mental state, if you try to read dense philosophy when you are brain dead or fluff when you are seeking depth, you will bounce right off it and back into the arms of the algorithm. You need more than just a book. You need a system for matching the right words to the right moment. You need to stop looking for the perfect book and start building something far more resilient. Chapter 4, Reading Stack. You are sitting on your couch at 9 p.m. You are exhausted. Your brain feels like mush. You know you should read. You made the commitment. You set the rule. But the only book on your nightstand is a dense 600-page biography of a 19th century politician. You look at it and your soul withers. It feels like homework. It feels like a mountain you don't have the energy to climb. So, what do? You pick up your phone. This is the failure point for most aspiring readers. They treat reading as a monolith. They think reading means slogging through one serious, impressive book until it is done, regardless of their mood, energy, or context. This is a strategic error. You are trying to fit a square peg into a round hole every single night. The feed wins because the feed is flexible. It offers you high-energy debates when you are angry, mindless memes when you are tired, and quick updates when you are busy. It adapts to you. If you want books to compete with that, you need to stop reading one book at a time and start building a system that adapts to you too. The menu, not the meal. We are going to replace the idea of the book I am reading with the concept of the reading stack. Think of your reading life like a menu. If a restaurant only served steak, you wouldn't go there for breakfast, and you wouldn't go there when you just wanted a light snack. You would stop going. Yet this is exactly how most people curate their reading. They have one heavy steak of a book, and if they aren't hungry for steak, they starve, or they go to the candy store of social media. Your reading stack is a small, curated collection of 3 to 5 active books, each assigned a specific role to match a specific mental state. It is designed to ensure that no matter how fried, energetic, bored, or busy you are, there is always a book in your stack that feels like the right answer. This is not about being scattered. It is about being strategic. The brain craves variety, but it hates chaos. By defining clear roles for your books, you get the novelty that the feed provides, but without the endless soul-sucking scroll. You are building an internal feed, one where every option is a winner. The 3 pillars of your stack. To build a stack that actually works, you need to cover 3 distinct bases. You can add more later, but these 3 are non-negotiable if you want to beat the algorithm. First, you need an anchor book. This is the heavy lifter. It is the book that stretches you, the one that requires focus and silence. It might be philosophy, deep history, complex science, or difficult literature. This book is your gym. You don't go to the gym when you are sick or exhausted. You go when you have energy to burn. The anchor book reminds you that you are capable of deep, sustained thought. It is the antidote to the shallow skimming of the internet. Second, you need a comfort book. This is your safety net. It is the book you reach for when the world has beaten you down. It should be easy, warm, and familiar. It could be a favorite novel you've read 10 times, a collection of funny essays, or a fast-paced mystery that pulls you in effortlessly. The comfort book has one job: to be easier than scrolling. When you are lying in bed, eyes half closed, this is the book that saves you from the blue light. Third, you need a practical book. This is the tool. It connects directly to a problem you are trying to solve in your life right now. Maybe it's about negotiation, or gardening, or coding, or parenting. The practical book is for the in-between moments, the commute, the lunch break, the waiting room. It feels productive. It gives you a quick hit of utility that the feed promises but rarely delivers. The monogamy myth. You might be resisting this. You might have a voice in your head saying, "But I can't read 3 books at once. I'll get confused. I need to finish what I start." This is the monogamy myth, a leftover from school where you were forced to read one textbook until the test. In the real world, you are already a polyamorous consumer of information. You watch 3 different TV shows in a week. You listen to 5 different podcasts. You follow 200 different accounts on Instagram. Your brain is perfectly capable of holding multiple narratives and ideas in parallel. In fact, reading multiple books often helps you finish more of them. When you are stuck in the anchor book, instead of quitting reading entirely, you switch to the comfort book. You keep the habit alive. You keep the pages turning. The momentum from the easy book often gives you the energy to tackle the hard book a few days later. It is not about being flaky. It is about recognizing that you are a different person at 8 a.m. than you are at 10 p.m. The 8 a.m. version of you wants to conquer the world. Give them the anchor book. The 10 p.m. version of you just wants to be held. Give them the comfort book. If you try to force the 10 p.m. version to read the anchor book, you will fail and you will scroll. Assembling your arsenal. Let's get tactical. How do you actually choose these books? For the anchor book, pick something you are genuinely curious about, not something you think you should read to impress people. If you don't care about the French Revolution, don't read a 900-page book about it just because it looks smart. Pick a topic that makes your brain light up even if it's difficult. The difficulty should feel like a challenge, not a punishment. For the comfort book, lower your standards. Seriously, this is not the place for literary pretension. If you love trashy sci-fi, own it. If you love celebrity memoirs, buy them. The only metric that matters here is, do I look forward to opening this? If the answer is no, it is not a comfort book. For the practical book, look at your calendar. What is stressing you out this week? What skill do you wish you had? Find a book that addresses that specific pain point. When a book is relevant to your immediate life, you will devour it because you are hungry for the solution. And if you are feeling adventurous, add a fourth slot, the wild card. This is for pure curiosity. A book about fungi, a history of salt, a graphic novel about architecture. Something that has no utility and no pressure, just pure, that's cool. This slot keeps the stack feeling fresh and unpredictable, mimicking the serendipity of the internet. Context is king. A stack is useless if the books are in the wrong place. If your comfort book is buried in your office bag and your anchor book is on your nightstand, you have set yourself up to fail. You need to map your books to your territory. The anchor book lives on your desk or your morning coffee table. It lives in the places where you are alert, upright, and ready to work. It signals to your brain, we are focusing now. The comfort book lives by the bed or the couch. It lives in the soft zones of your house. It should be within arm's reach of where you collapse at the end of the day. The practical book lives in your bag or on your phone as an audiobook. It is mobile. It is ready to fill the gaps in your schedule. By physically separating them, you reduce decision fatigue. You don't have to stand in front of a bookshelf and wonder what to read. If you are in bed, you read the bed book. If you are at your desk, you read the desk book. You are automating the choice. The rotation game. Once you have your stack, how do you actually read them? Do you alternate days? Do you read them all every day? There are no rules, only systems. One powerful system is the rotation. If you are struggling to get into the anchor book, make a deal with yourself. I will read 15 minutes of the anchor book, and then I am allowed to switch to the comfort book. This uses the Premack principle, using a high probability behavior, reading the fun book, to reinforce a low probability behavior, reading the hard book. You get the satisfaction of doing the hard work, followed immediately by the reward of the easy work. Or you can rotate by day. Weekdays are for the practical book during the commute and the comfort book at night. Weekends are for the anchor book when you have long stretches of uninterrupted time. The key is to listen to your own resistance. If you pick up a book and feel a wall of dread, don't force it. Put it down. Pick up another one from the stack. If you try 3 books and none of them work, then, and only then, are you allowed to say you are in a reading slump. But usually the problem isn't reading. The problem is the mismatch between the book and the moment. The danger of the tower. There is a trap here, and I need to warn you about it. It is called the Tower of Guilt. When you start building a stack, it is tempting to go overboard. You buy 10 books, you start 7 of them. Suddenly, your nightstand looks like a graveyard of good intentions. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like you are failing 7 times simultaneously. Keep your active stack small, 3 to 5 books, maximum. If you want to start a new one, you have to pause or finish one of the current ones. The rest of your books go on a shelf, out of sight, in an on-deck circle. They are not allowed to look at you with judging eyes. Your active stack should feel like a small elite team, not a chaotic mob. It should feel manageable. You want to look at it and feel excited by the variety, not crushed by the obligation. The ecosystem of you. When you get this right, something magical happens. You stop having reading time and start having a reading life. You wake up and read a few pages of Stoic philosophy, Anchor, with your coffee. It wakes up your brain. On the bus to work, you listen to a chapter about productivity, Practical. It gets you ready for the day. At lunch, you read a weird little book about the history of colors because it's fun. And at night, when you are done with the world, you sink into a cozy mystery, Comfort, that shuts off your racing thoughts. You have replaced the scroll not with a chore but with an ecosystem. You are feeding every part of your brain, the intellectual, the professional, the curious, the tired, with high-quality fuel instead of algorithmic junk food. You are no longer a person who is trying to read more. You are a person who always has a book for the moment. You are never bored because your stack is always there, ready to meet you exactly where you are. But even with the perfect stack, there is still one formidable enemy left. It is the voice that whispers, "I'm not smart enough for this." It is the fear that hits you when you open that anchor book and the words feel dense, slippery, and impenetrable. It is the insecurity that sends you running back to the easy, mindless comfort of the feed. We have built the menu. Now we have to teach you how to chew the toughest steak without choking. We are going to tackle the anchor book head on, and I'm going to show you why the struggle isn't a sign of failure. It is the whole point. Chapter 5, Deep Anchor. You know the feeling. You open a book that everyone says is brilliant, a dense biography, a complex piece of philosophy, or a detailed history, and you read the first paragraph. Your eyes move across the words, but nothing sticks. It feels like your brain is made of Teflon. The sentences slide right off. You read the paragraph again, still nothing. You feel a rising panic, a hot flush of embarrassment, and a sudden overwhelming urge to check your phone. You tell yourself you are tired. You tell yourself the writing is bad. You tell yourself you just aren't smart enough for this kind of book anymore. You are lying to yourself. You are not stupid, and you are not incapable. You are simply out of shape. For years, you have been training your brain to handle feathers. You have spent thousands of hours lifting the cognitive equivalent of a paperclip, tweets, captions, headlines, 15-second videos. Now, you are trying to lift 100 pounds, and your mental muscles are trembling. This is not a permanent disability. It is atrophy. And the only way to fix atrophy is to pick up something heavy and lift it over and over again until the strength returns. The gym for your mind. This is where the anchor book enters your stack. If the comfort book is your warm blanket and the practical book is your toolkit, the anchor book is your barbell. It is the one book in your rotation that is specifically chosen to be difficult. It is supposed to be hard. It is supposed to resist you. The purpose of the anchor book is not just to acquire information. It is to rebuild your cognitive stamina. When you scroll, you are engaging in rapid-fire context switching. Your attention jumps every few seconds. When you read a deep anchor, you are forcing your brain to hold a single complex thread of thought for minutes at a time. You are stretching the duration of your focus. Winners understand that deep work requires resistance. You cannot build a strong body by only lifting things that feel light, and you cannot build a strong mind by only reading things that feel easy. The loser mindset avoids this friction. The loser wants everything to be consumable, snackable, and bite-sized. The loser wants the author to do all the work. The winner knows that the value of a book is often found in the struggle to understand it. By committing to an anchor book, you are drawing a line in the sand. You are saying that you are no longer satisfied with the surface level of the world. You are willing to dive into the deep end, where the water is colder and the currents are stronger, because that is where the real treasures are buried. The Goldilocks zone of difficulty. The most common mistake people make when choosing an anchor book is hubris. They decide to fix their attention span, so they go out and buy the most impenetrable, academic, jargon-filled tome they can find. They last 3 pages, feel like an idiot, and quit. This is like walking into a gym for the first time in 10 years and trying to bench press 300 pounds. You will crush your windpipe. The secret to the anchor book is a concept psychologists call desirable difficulty. You want a book that is in the Goldilocks zone, hard enough to demand your full attention, but not so hard that it is impossible to decipher. It should be slightly intimidating, not completely alien. If you are interested in history, don't start with a dry academic dissertation on grain prices in the 17th century. Start with a Pulitzer Prize-winning narrative history that spans 500 pages. If you want to understand physics, don't buy a graduate-level textbook. Buy a serious book written for intelligent laypeople by a leading scientist. You are looking for a book that makes you pause every few pages to think, wait, did I get that? You want a book that forces you to reread sentences. That friction is the point. That moment of, wait, let me check that again, is the rep. That is the moment your brain is rewiring itself from the passive reception of the feed to the active construction of knowledge. The imposter in your head. As you begin this process, a voice in your head will try to sabotage you. It is the voice of the imposter. It will whisper, "You don't understand this. You're just pretending. Everyone else gets this instantly, but you're struggling because you're slow." This voice is a liar, and it is a product of the internet. The internet has trained you to expect instant clarity. A meme is understood in a microsecond. A viral video explains its premise in the first 3 seconds. If you don't understand something online instantly, you scroll past it. We have conflated speed of understanding with intelligence. But deep ideas do not yield themselves instantly. Confusion is not a sign of stupidity. Confusion is the sensation of learning. If you are not confused, you are not learning anything new. You are just reinforcing what you already know. When you feel that fog of, "I don't quite get this yet," do not retreat to your phone. Sit in the fog. Read the sentence again. The winner embraces the confusion. They see it as a challenge to be solved, not a verdict on their IQ. They know that the clarity that comes after a struggle is 10 times more satisfying than the cheap clarity of a simplified post. When you finally unlock a difficult concept in your anchor book, you own that concept. It becomes part of your mental architecture in a way that a tweet never could. The 10-minute heavy lift. The second myth that stops people from deep reading is the myth of the perfect hour. You convince yourself that to read a serious book, you need a leather armchair, a crackling fire, silence, and 2 uninterrupted hours. Since you never have that, you never start. This is perfectionism masquerading as logistics. You do not need 2 hours, you need 10 minutes. In fact, for a true anchor book, 10 to 15 minutes might be all you can handle at first. Deep reading is exhausting. It burns glucose. It taxes your executive function. If you try to read a dense philosophy book for an hour on your first day, you will burn out. Treat your anchor sessions like high-intensity interval training. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Put your phone in another room. Sit down with the book and commit to total, unwavering focus for just that quarter of an hour. When the timer goes off, you are allowed to stop. In fact, you should stop. You will be amazed at how much progress you make with 15 minutes of true focus a day. That is nearly 2 hours a week. In 2 hours of deep reading, you can cover significant ground. More importantly, you are building the habit of showing up for the hard work. You are proving to yourself day by day that you can sit with complexity and not run away. Active engagement. You cannot read an anchor book passively. You cannot let the words wash over you like you do with a comfort novel. You must attack the text. Read with a pencil in your hand. If you are using a Kindle, use the highlight and note function. Underline the arguments. Circle the words you don't know. Put a question mark next to the parts that confuse you and an exclamation point next to the parts that blow your mind. This is not about defacing the book. It is about leaving your footprints in it. When you mark up a text, you are transforming from a spectator into a participant. You are entering into a conversation with the author. At the end of your short session, do one more thing. Write a single sentence summarizing what you just read. Just one sentence. The author argues that the Roman Empire fell not because of invasion, but because of economic inflation. This act of retrieval, forcing your brain to compress complex information into a simple summary, is the most powerful memory tool in existence. It locks the information in. It proves to you that you actually understood what you read. It turns the passive act of looking at words into the active act of building knowledge. The parking spot. One of the reasons we dread picking up a hard book is the friction of re-entry. You open the book to page 142, look at the wall of text. and have no idea what is going on. You have lost the thread. To fix this, you need to park your car properly. Never stop reading at the end of a chapter. Stop in the middle of a scene or the middle of an argument. Stop when you know exactly what is going to happen next. Before you close the book, write a tiny note on a sticky note or in your digital margin. Next, he is about to confront the general. Or, next, the counter-argument about inflation. This is your parking spot. When you pick up the book tomorrow, you don't have to waste mental energy trying to remember where you were. You read the note, and you are instantly back in the flow. You have lowered the barrier to entry. You have made it easy to do the hard thing. The identity shift. The ultimate payoff of the anchor book is not just the knowledge you gain, though that is substantial. The real payoff is who you become in the process. When you finish a book that scared you, something shifts in your self-image. You realize that you are not just a consumer of content. You are a thinker. You are someone who can grapple with big ideas. You are someone who possesses the rarest asset in the modern economy, a deep attention span. You will start to notice this spilling over into the rest of your life. You will sit in a meeting and realize you can pay attention longer than your colleagues. You will listen to a friend's complex problem without zoning out. You will feel a new sense of calm authority, a groundedness that comes from knowing you can handle mental weight. You will look at your phone with its frantic, flashing notifications, and it will look small. It will look like a toy. You have graduated to heavy machinery. But let's be honest, you cannot lift heavy weights every hour of every day. There will be nights when you are shattered. There will be days when the world is too loud, your boss was too demanding, and your brain feels like it has been put through a blender. On those nights, the anchor book will look like an enemy. If the only option you have is hard work or scrolling, and you are exhausted, you will choose scrolling every time. You need a defense against your own exhaustion. You need a place to go when you can't climb the mountain, but you refuse to jump into the pit. You need to learn the art of the soft landing. Chapter 6, Comfort Corner. It is 10 p.m. You have had a day that felt like a week. Your boss was unreasonable, your commute was a nightmare, and your brain feels like a wrung-out sponge. You are sitting on the edge of your bed, and you have a choice. On your nightstand sits your anchor book, that brilliant, challenging history of the Roman Empire. Next to it sits your phone. If you are honest with yourself, you know what happens next. You are not going to read about the Roman Empire. You don't have the bandwidth. So, you pick up the phone. You tell yourself it's just for 5 minutes to decompress. An hour later, you are still scrolling, your eyes burning, your mind filled with the static of 1,000 irrelevant opinions. You go to sleep feeling worse than when you started. This is the trap of high-performance perfectionism. You believe that reading must always be an act of intellectual athleticism. You think that if you aren't learning, growing, or challenging yourself, it doesn't count. But this mindset ignores a fundamental biological reality. Your nervous system needs safety. If the only tool you have for relaxation is your phone will win every time you are tired. You don't need more discipline, you need a softer landing. The strategic value of fluff. We need to talk about the comfort corner. This is the part of your reading stack that you have probably been neglecting, or worse, feeling guilty about. It is the book you read not because it makes you smarter, but because it makes you feel safe. Think of your brain like an engine. Your anchor book is high-octane racing fuel. It pushes the engine to its limits. But you cannot redline an engine 24 hours a day. Eventually, it overheats. When you are stressed or exhausted, your brain is screaming for a cooling cycle. It craves predictability, warmth, and low-stakes engagement. The algorithm knows this. That is why your feed is full of satisfying videos of soap cutting, cute animals, and easy jokes. It offers you a friction-free way to numb out. If your reading life offers only friction, only hard ideas and complex sentences, it cannot compete. You must fight fire with water. You need a book that is as easy to consume as a sitcom. You need a story where you know the good guys will win. You need a memoir that feels like talking to a friend. This is not cheating. This is strategic recovery. By having a comfort book ready, you give yourself a valid alternative to the scroll that actually meets your emotional needs in that moment. Permission to be basic. The first step is to kill the snob in your head. You know the one. It's the voice that says, I should be reading the classics, or romance novels are trash, or I'm too old for young adult fantasy. That voice is the reason you are doom scrolling. If you want to beat the feed, you have to be willing to read whatever actually delights you. If that means reading a thriller about a spy who is also a werewolf, read it. If it means reading a cozy mystery where a cat solves crimes, buy it. If it means rereading Harry Potter for the 15th time, do it. The goal here is not intellectual posturing. The goal is attention capture. When you are exhausted, your willpower is at zero. You cannot force yourself to do something hard. You can only tempt yourself to do something enjoyable. A comfort book works because it pulls you in. It offers a dopamine hit that rivals the phone, but without the toxic side effects. It soothes your nervous system instead of frying it. The art of the reread. One of the most powerful weapons in your comfort corner is the reread. In our culture of constant novelty, we feel a pressure to always be consuming something new. We treat books like a checklist. Read that. Done. What's next? But there is a profound psychological safety in returning to a story you already know. When you open a favorite book, your brain relaxes instantly. You know the characters. You know the rhythm of the prose. You know that nothing terrible is going to happen that you can't handle. This familiarity lowers the barrier to entry to almost zero. When you are too tired to learn a new magic system or memorize a new cast of characters, an old favorite is waiting for you like a warm sweater. It is the ultimate read instead hack. Why gamble on a new book or a chaotic feed when you can have a guaranteed win? Designing your sanctuary. You cannot rely on finding a comfort book in the moment of crisis. When you are stressed, your decision-making ability collapses. If you have to browse Amazon or stare at your bookshelf to find something soothing, you will give up and open Instagram. You need to build your comfort corner before you need it. Designate a specific physical space for this. Maybe it's the corner of the couch with the good lamp. Maybe it's your bed. In this space, keep 2 or 3 options permanently available. Do not mix them with your workbooks or your self-improvement books. This is a demilitarized zone. Create a ritual around it. When you sit in that chair, the phone goes in the other room. You are not there to achieve anything. You are there to escape. And let's be clear, escape is not a dirty word. Winners escape into stories that restore their humanity. Losers escape into algorithms that erode it. The bridge over the slump. The comfort book is also your insurance policy against the reading slump. We all hit periods where life gets overwhelming. A new baby, a crunch time at work, a family crisis. During these times, your anchor book will feel impossible. If your identity is tied solely to hard reading, you will stop reading entirely. You will break the chain. But if you have a comfort corner, you just downshift. You put the philosophy book away for a month and you live in your mystery novels. You keep the habit alive. You keep the identity of I am a reader intact. You are still turning pages, still engaging with long-form thought, still choosing your own inputs. Then, when the crisis passes and your energy returns, you haven't fallen off the wagon. You are still on it, just moving at a gentler pace. You can pick up the heavy weights again whenever you are ready. The guilt trap. Even as you do this, you will feel a twinge of guilt. You will think, I'm wasting time. I should be learning something. Let's reframe that. What is the alternative? The alternative is not learning something. The alternative is scrolling. Every minute you spend in a comfort book is a minute you did not spend comparing your life to strangers on the internet. It is a minute you did not spend getting angry at clickbait. It is a minute you spent rebuilding your attention span, even if the content was light. Furthermore, light books often teach us more than we give them credit for. Fiction builds empathy. Memoirs teach us about the human condition. Humor gives us perspective. Just because it isn't difficult doesn't mean it isn't valuable. The nightly reset. Here is a challenge for you. For the next week, end your day with the comfort corner. Set a hard rule. No screens in the last 20 minutes before sleep. Instead, get into bed, open your chosen comfort read, and read just a few pages. Notice what happens to your body. Notice how your breathing slows down. Notice how the frantic, buzzing energy of the day begins to dissipate. You are not just reading, you are signaling to your brain that the day is done. You are closing the loops. You will sleep better. You will wake up feeling less fragmented, and you will realize that this waste of time is actually the most productive recovery tool you possess. But there is a danger here. If you get too comfortable, you might stay there forever. You might find yourself only reading the easy stuff, never pushing back into the deep water. The comfort corner is a sanctuary, not a permanent residence. You need to know when to rest, but you also need to know when to move. And speaking of moving, there is a whole other category of time that you are currently wasting. It's not the hour before bed, and it's not the deep focus time. It's the invisible time. The time that slips through your fingers while you are waiting for the elevator, standing in line for coffee, or sitting on the toilet. You think these moments are too small to matter. You are wrong. These micro moments are the secret weapon of the prolific reader. And in the next chapter, we are going to teach you how to steal them back. Chapter 7, Micro Reading. You are standing in the lobby, watching the numbers on the elevator display tick upward. You have perhaps 45 seconds before the doors open. You are sitting in the passenger seat of a car, 5 minutes away from your destination. You are in the waiting room at the dentist, and the receptionist just said it would be just a moment. What do? If you are like most people, your hand is already in your pocket. You have unlocked your phone before you have even consciously decided to do so. You check a feed. You refresh an email inbox that hasn't changed in 10 minutes. You stare at a red notification dot. You are killing time. But you are not just killing time, you are bleeding it. These tiny, invisible moments are the dark matter of your day. You ignore them because they feel insignificant. What can you possibly accomplish in 3 minutes? So you donate them to the algorithm. You let them slip through your fingers like sand. But if you were to collect all these grains of sand, the 3 minutes here, the 5 minutes there, the 10 minutes waiting for a meeting to start, you would find that they form a mountain. This chapter is about reclaiming that mountain. It is about shifting your definition of reading from a grand event to a constant thread. We are going to teach you the art of micro-reading. The myth of the perfect hour. There is a romantic image of reading that is destroying your ability to actually read. You know the one. It involves a leather armchair, a crackling fireplace, a rainstorm outside, and 2 hours of uninterrupted silence. You tell yourself that this is what reading requires. You tell yourself that you cannot possibly engage with a book unless the conditions are perfect. This is a lie. It is a convenient excuse that allows you to procrastinate indefinitely. Real life is not a library. Real life is noisy, messy, and fragmented. If you wait for the perfect hour, you will wait forever. While you are waiting for that mythical block of silence, you are spending 2 hours a day scrolling on the toilet, in the checkout line, and during commercial breaks. Winners do not wait for perfect conditions. Winners adapt to the conditions they have. They understand that a page read in a noisy subway station counts just as much as a page read in a silent study. In fact, it might count more, because it is a page stolen back from the void. You need to stop treating reading as a delicate flower that needs a greenhouse to survive and start treating it like a weed that can grow through cracks in the concrete. You need to become an opportunistic reader. The mathematics of the gaps. Let's look at the cold hard math of micro-reading. It is easy to dismiss 5 minutes as worthless, but let's say you identify just 3 micro moments in your day: the morning commute wait, the lunch line, and the few minutes before bed. That is 15 minutes total. 15 minutes a day seems negligible, but 15 minutes a day is over 90 hours a year. An average reader can finish a standard nonfiction book in about 6 to 8 hours. That means those useless 15 minutes, if repurposed, add up to 12 or 15 books a year. Think about that. You could become an expert in a new field, read the entire works of a favorite author, or completely reshape your mindset just by utilizing the time you currently spend looking at memes in an elevator. The loser looks at 5 minutes and sees nothing. The winner looks at 5 minutes and sees a paragraph, a page, a concept. They understand the compound interest of attention. They know that a wall is built one brick at a time, and it doesn't matter if you lay the bricks quickly or slowly as long as you keep laying them. Weaponizing your device. To make microreading work, you have to embrace a paradox. The device that caused the problem is also the solution. You cannot carry a hardcover book in your back pocket everywhere you go. It isn't practical. If you rely solely on physical books, you will miss 80% of your micro-reading opportunities. You will find yourself in line at the bank without your book, and you will scroll. You must weaponize your phone. You need to install the Kindle app, the Audible app, or whatever reader you prefer, and you need to put it on your home screen, right where your thumb naturally falls. When you are standing in line, you don't have the friction of pulling a book out of a bag. You have 1 second. You need to be able to tap and read instantly. This is where ebooks shine. They sync your place automatically. You can read 3 sentences, lock your phone, and move on. Many purists resist this. They say they prefer the smell of paper. That is fine for your anchor sessions or your comfort corner. But for micro-reading, utility beats nostalgia. The best book is the one you have with you. If you refuse to read on your phone, you are surrendering the battlefield of the micro-moment to the social media apps that live there. The one-paragraph rule. The biggest barrier to micro-reading is the mental load of starting. You think, I only have 2 minutes. It's not worth starting a chapter. You need to lower the bar until it is on the floor. Your new goal for these moments is not to read a chapter. It is not even to read a page. It is to read 1 paragraph. 1 paragraph is nothing. You can read 1 paragraph in 30 seconds. It is so small that your brain cannot object to it. But here is the magic. Once you read that first paragraph, you are in. The hook is set. You will likely read a second and a third. And even if you truly only read 1 paragraph, let's say the elevator arrives, you have still won. You have maintained the continuity of the book in your mind. You haven't severed the connection. You have cast a vote for your identity as a reader. You looked at the screen and chose depth over noise. That victory matters more than the word count. Mapping the minefield. You cannot leave this to chance. You need to map your day and identify your specific micro-moments. Start with the transition zones. These are the spaces between activities. Walking from your car to the office, waiting for the kettle to boil, brushing your teeth. These are the moments where your brain goes into idle mode and seeks distraction. Assign a specific format to these zones. For example, when I am brushing my teeth, I listen to an audiobook. When I am waiting for a meeting to start, I read an ebook. You also need to identify the trapped zones. These are places like public transport, waiting rooms, or the passenger seat of a car. These are dangerous because you are physically confined and bored. The urge to scroll here is overwhelming. You need to decide in advance. The bus is for reading, period. By pre-deciding, you remove the need for willpower. You don't have to stand in the bus aisle debating with yourself. The decision was made yesterday. You get on the bus, you open the book, overcoming the fragmentation. A common complaint about micro-reading is that it feels disjointed. I can't follow a complex argument if I'm reading it in 2-minute bursts. This is a valid concern, but it is solvable. First, choose the right book for the job. Your micro-reading book should probably be your practical book or your comfort book, something with short chapters, clear sections, or a strong narrative drive. Trying to read dense, nonlinear philosophy in the checkout line is setting yourself up for frustration. Second, use the recap technique. When you open your book for a micro session, spend the first 10 seconds scanning the last paragraph you read. Remind yourself where you are. Okay, the detective just found the key. Then move forward. Third, realize that your brain is more adaptable than you think. You already consume information in fragments, tweets, headlines, texts. You are an expert at fragmented consumption. You are just applying that skill to a longer narrative. Your brain will learn to stitch the pieces together. It will learn to hold the thread even when you put the phone down. The invisible shield. There is a social benefit to microreading that we rarely discuss. It acts as a shield. When you are in a public space and you are scrolling, you look available. You look like you are killing time. But when you are reading, even on a phone, if you are clearly focused, you project a different energy. You are occupied. You are doing something. More importantly, it protects your own energy. Public spaces can be draining. The noise, the movement, the sensory overload. Scrolling opens you up to more noise, the digital noise of the world. Reading closes the circuit. It creates a private bubble of focus amidst the chaos. You can be standing in a crowded, smelly subway car, but mentally, you are in 1920s Paris, or on a spaceship, or learning about the architecture of bridges. You are untouchable. You are not a victim of your environment. You are a tourist in it, with your real location somewhere else entirely. The compound effect on identity. The ultimate power of microreading is not just the pages you accumulate, it is the message you send to yourself. Every time you choose the book over the feed in a micro moment, you are rewriting your self-image. You are proving to yourself that you are not addicted. You are proving that you are the master of your attention. You stop being the person who says, "I wish I had time to read," and you become the person who reads everywhere. You become the person who pulls out a book at a dinner party when the host goes to the kitchen. You become the person who finishes a book a week without ever having a reading session. This builds a massive, unstoppable momentum. You start to feel strange when you don't have a book going. The silence of the elevator becomes a trigger for reading, not a trigger for anxiety. But there is a danger in this momentum. You are going to start finishing books. You are going to tear through your stack faster than you expected. And this brings us to a critical juncture. The moment you finish a book is the most dangerous moment in your reading life. It is the moment of the void. If you do not have a plan for what happens, the second you turn the final page, you will fall straight back into the scroll. We need to design a system that bridges the gap, a way to make your reading life a continuous, unbroken chain, where the end of one story is simply the prologue to the next. Chapter 8, Momentum Loop. You have done it. You have reached the final page. You read the last sentence, closed the back cover, and set the book down on the table with a satisfying thud. You feel a surge of accomplishment. You have conquered the text. You have reclaimed your attention. You are a reader. And then a strange silence fills the room. For the last week or month, this book was your companion. It was the default place your mind went when you had a spare moment. Now it is gone. You are suddenly unmoored. You look at the coffee table. There is nothing there but empty space. You feel a restless twitch in your fingers. You wonder what is happening in the world. You wonder if anyone has messaged you. In this precise moment of victory, you are in the greatest danger. The moment you finish a book is the moment the algorithm tries to claw you back. The feed thrives on the in-between. It knows that when you are between tasks, between hobbies, or between books, you are vulnerable. If you do not have a plan for the second after you finish a book, you will default to the path of least resistance. You will pick up your phone just to celebrate or take a break, and 3 weeks later you will realize you haven't read a single page since. We need to fix this. We need to close the gap. We are going to build a system where the end of one book is not a stop sign, but a launch pad for the next. The dangerous silence. The reason most people fail to become lifelong readers is not that they can't finish a book. It is that they can't start the next one. We treat reading like a series of isolated, heroic events. We climb the mountain of a book, plant our flag at the summit, and then walk all the way back down to the valley of scrolling. When we decide to read again, we have to summon the energy to climb a whole new mountain from scratch. This is exhausting. It requires massive amounts of activation energy every single time. Winners do not operate in bursts, they operate in loops. They understand that momentum is a precious resource. It is far easier to stay in motion than it is to start from a dead stop. If you let your reading momentum die after every book, you are making the process 10 times harder than it needs to be. You are forcing yourself to make a new decision, find a new book, and build a new habit every few weeks. The goal is to create a momentum loop, where the energy of the book you just finished propels you directly into the next one. We want to eliminate the friction of the transition. We want to make the gap between books so small that the algorithm doesn't have time to slide in. The Netflix effect. Think about how you watch a television series. When an episode ends, do you sit there, agonize over what to watch next, research 10 different shows, and then give up? No. The next episode starts automatically. The narrative arc pulls you forward. You don't have to make a decision, so you keep watching. We are going to apply this same psychology to your reading life. We are going to stop reading random, disconnected books and start building reading arcs. A reading arc is a sequence of 2 to 4 books that are loosely connected by a theme, a question, or an idea. Instead of asking, "What should I read?" every time you finish a book, you already know. You are in the middle of an arc. For example, let's say you just finished a biography of a famous artist. Instead of jumping to a random sci-fi novel, you might say, "I am currently in my creativity arc." Your next book could be a psychological study of how the brain generates ideas. The book after that could be a collection of letters between 2 writers. When you group books into arcs, you gamify the process. You are not just reading a book, you are completing a season. You start to see connections between the books. The psychologist explains the behavior you just read about in the biography. The letters confirm the theory. This deepens your engagement. You are not just consuming words, you are building a web of understanding. The curiosity generated by one book spills over into the next, acting as the fuel that keeps the engine running. The detective method. But how do you find these connections? You do not need a librarian or a college syllabus. You just need to play detective. Every good book is pointing at other books. Authors are constantly tipping their hands, telling you where they got their ideas, who influenced them, and what they read. These are clues. When you are reading your anchor book, pay attention to the footnotes. Pay attention to the names the author drops in the text. If a philosopher mentions a specific poet 3 times, that is a clue. If a historian references a specific battle as the turning point, that is a clue. Write these down. These are not just references, they are invitations. The best way to choose your next book is to let your current book choose it for you. This makes your reading path feel organic and alive. You are following a trail of breadcrumbs that is unique to your curiosity. If you finish a book about the ocean and the author mentions a specific explorer who vanished, and you feel a spark of, "I want to know more about that," that is your next book. You don't have to go to a bestseller list. You follow the spark. This ensures that you are always reading something that answers a question you actually have, rather than reading something you think you should read. The rule of 3. The biggest killer of momentum is decision fatigue. You finish a book, you look at Amazon or your bookshelf, and you see thousands of options. You freeze. The paradox of choice sets in. You are overwhelmed, so you choose nothing. You open Instagram because it requires 0 choice. To immunize yourself against this, you must adopt the next 3 rule. You should never, ever finish a book without knowing what the next 3 books are. You don't need to buy them all yet, but you need to know what they are. You need an on-deck circle. This list should be short. Do not make a list of 50 books you want to read before you die. That is just a guilt list. A list of 3 is manageable. It is concrete. It sits on your nightstand or in your notes app as a clear, actionable instruction to your future self. When you are 20 pages away from the end of your current book, you should already be physically preparing the next one. Put it on the table, download it to your device, remove the friction. The goal is to make the physical action of picking up the new book easier than the action of unlocking your phone. The bridge book. There is a nuance here that separates the amateurs from the pros. Sometimes you finish a massive, difficult anchor book and you are exhausted. You loved it, but your brain is fried. You look at your next 3 list, and if the next book is another 600-page dense history, you will revolt. You will bounce off it and land in the feed. You need a palate cleanser. You need a bridge book. A bridge book is a short, fast, highly engaging book that you insert between heavy reads to keep the momentum alive without burning out. It is the sorbet between courses. It could be a graphic novel. It could be a novella. It could be a collection of short essays. The bridge book has one job: to be finished quickly. It gives you a quick win. It reminds you that reading is fun. It keeps the habit of opening a book intact while your cognitive batteries recharge. Do not let your ego get in the way here. Do not tell yourself you should be strong enough to read heavy books back-to-back forever. Even elite athletes take rest days. The bridge book is your active recovery. It keeps you in the gym, moving your muscles, but with light weights, so you are ready for the next heavy lift. Visible momentum. We are visual creatures. We need to see progress to believe it. The feed gives you constant visual feedback: likes, comments, view counts. Reading is often invisible. You finish a book, put it on a shelf, and forget it. You need to make your momentum visible. You need to see the chain you are building. Keep a simple list of the books you have finished this year. Keep it somewhere you see every day. A note on your phone, a list on your fridge, a page in your journal. When you finish a book, write it down. Add the date. There is a profound psychological satisfaction in adding a line to that list. It is a trophy. It is proof of time well spent. When you look at that list and see 5, 10, or 20 titles, you see a physical representation of your reclaimed attention. You see hours that were not lost to the scroll. This list protects you when you stumble. There will be days when you feel like you aren't making progress. You will feel like the algorithm is winning. In those moments, look at your list. Look at the chain. It reminds you that you are capable of sustained effort. It reminds you that you are building something permanent. The trap of rigid planning. A warning: do not turn your momentum loop into a prison. Some people get so excited about reading arcs in the next 3 that they plan out their entire year. They make a spreadsheet. January is for history, February is for science. This is a mistake. This turns reading into a job. It kills the serendipity. Your interests will change. You might read a book in your history arc that suddenly makes you obsessed with biology. If your rigid plan says, no, next month is economics, you will feel trapped. You will resent the plan, and you will stop reading. Your system must be flexible. The next 3 list is written in pencil, not ink. If a new, exciting book crosses your path, you are allowed to slot it in. If you get bored with a theme, you are allowed to abandon the arc. The goal is not to follow the plan. The goal is to keep reading. The plan exists only to prevent the what now paralysis. If the plan becomes the source of paralysis, burn the plan. The infinite game. Ultimately, the momentum loop changes your relationship with time. When you are a scroller, time is something to be killed. It is a void to be filled with distraction. When you are a reader with momentum, time is an opportunity. You stop worrying about finishing your reading list. You realize there is no finish line. The point is not to get to the end of the books. The point is to stay in the loop. You start to see your life not as a series of days where you fight the urge to scroll, but as a continuous journey through ideas and stories. One book hands you off to the next, like a relay racer passing a baton. You are never alone because you always have the next voice waiting to speak to you. You have built the machine. You have the environment, the stack, the micro habits, and now the momentum to keep it running forever. You have effectively designed a life where reading is the default and scrolling is the anomaly. But there is one final transformation that needs to happen. It is the shift that takes all of these behaviors, the stack, the anchor, the loop, and fuses them into something that requires no willpower at all. It is the difference between someone who reads and a reader. It is the moment where the system stops being something you do and starts being who you are. And once you cross that threshold, you never have to worry about the scroll again. Chapter 9, Lifelong Pages. You are standing at the threshold. Look down at your hands. In one hand, you have the device that has dominated your attention for the last decade. It is sleek, glowing, and engineered to harvest your time. In the other hand, you have the potential for a different life. A life defined not by what you scrolled past, but by what you truly understood. You are not the same person who opened the first page of this book. That person was a passenger, strapped into a seat, watching the scenery of their own life blur by in a wash of pixels. You are now the driver. You have seen the machinery behind the curtain. You know that the urge to scroll is not a moral failing, but a chemical loop. You know that you cannot fight a supercomputer with willpower, but you can beat it with a system. We have spent 8 chapters dismantling the trap and building the escape route. Now we need to talk about where that route leads. This is not just about reading more books. It is about who you become when you stop outsourcing your mind to a feed. The architecture of freedom. Let's pause and look at the weapon you have built. It is easy to forget the individual pieces, but when you assemble them, they form a fortress. You started by exposing the enemy. You stopped calling it relaxing and started calling it what it is, a dopamine extraction loop. You realized that the wired but empty feeling wasn't normal. It was a symptom of an overdose on novelty. Then, you installed the override switch, read instead. You learned that you don't need to destroy the urge to check out. You just need to redirect it. You replaced the vacuum of willpower with the solid ground of a book. You built a reading stack because you realized that reading isn't one thing. You stopped trying to force yourself to read philosophy when you were exhausted, and you stopped feeling guilty about reading thrillers when you needed comfort. You gave every version of yourself, the tired you, the curious you, the ambitious you, a specific book to turn to. You learned to lift heavy weights with your anchor book, proving that your attention span isn't dead, just out of shape. You learned to soften the landing with your comfort corner, creating a sanctuary that competes with the ease of the phone. You weaponized the cracks in your day with micro-reading, turning dead time into living pages. And finally, you learned to chain it all together with the momentum loop, so you never have to face the terror of the blank slate again. This is not a collection of tips. It is a lifestyle design. It is a rejection of the default setting of modern life. The cognitive edge. Why does this matter? Why go to all this trouble just to read some words on a page? Because the world belongs to the focused. Look around you. We are living in an epidemic of shallow thinking. Most people cannot hold a thought for more than 60 seconds without reaching for a screen to see if something new has happened. They are reacting constantly to stimuli they did not choose. Their opinions are not their own. They are downloaded from the algorithm. Their emotional state is dictated by the trending tab. When you become a reader, you step out of that stream. You regain the ability to think in long arcs. A book allows you to inhabit a mind greater than your own for hours at a time. You learn to follow complex arguments, to visualize detailed worlds, to sit with ambiguity without panicking. This gives you a massive competitive advantage. In your work, while others are skimming and reacting, you are synthesizing and planning. You have better mental models. You have a reservoir of history, biography, and theory to draw upon. You are playing chess while the scrollers are playing checkers. But it goes deeper than professional success. It is about emotional stability. The feed is designed to keep you anxious, envious, and outraged. It is a machine that turns your peace of mind into ad revenue. A book is the opposite. It is a machine for empathy and coherence. When you replace an hour of scrolling with an hour of reading, you are not just changing your activity, You are changing your nervous system. You feel calmer. You feel more grounded. You feel a self-respect that comes from keeping a promise to yourself. The presence paradox. There is a hidden benefit to this transformation that we haven't discussed, and it might be the most important one of all. It is about the people you love. It seems paradoxical. How does burying your nose in a book make you better at relationships? Think about the last conversation you had where the other person was half looking at their phone. You felt it, didn't you? The disrespect, the sense that you were competing with a digital ghost. Now think about the person who can sit through a dinner without checking their pocket once. That person radiates presence. Reading trains you to be present. It trains you to listen to a voice that isn't yours for an extended period. It builds the muscle of empathy. When you read a novel, you are practicing the art of seeing the world through someone else's eyes. You are breaking out of the solipsism of the feed, which is a hall of mirrors reflecting your own biases back at you. When you become a reader, you bring more to the table. You are no longer regurgitating the same 3 viral hot takes that everyone else is repeating. You have fresh ideas. You have stories from history, metaphors from science, insights from literature. You become a richer person to know. You become the friend who listens, the partner who is actually there, the parent who models focus rather than distraction. The library of your life. Imagine 2 timelines stretching out in front of you. In the first timeline, you do nothing. You put this book down and go back to normal. You continue to scroll for 2 hours a day. Over the next 10 years, that adds up to over 7,000 hours. That is almost an entire year of your life, 24 hours a day, spent staring at a screen. And what do you have to show for it? Nothing. A blur of images, a vague sense of anxiety, a decade of life. Deleted. Now imagine the second timeline. You embrace the identity of the reader. You reclaim those 2 hours. You use your stack. You use your micro moments. Even if you read at a modest pace, you will finish 50 books a year. In 10 years, that is 500 books. 500 books. Imagine who you will be after reading 500 books. Imagine the skills you will have learned, the stories you will have absorbed, the wisdom you will have encountered. That version of you is a force of nature. That version of you has lived 1,000 lives. That version of you is the architect of their own mind, not a squatter in a digital tenement. This is what is at stake. It is not about being a bookworm. It is about the texture and quality of your existence. The flywheel of identity. The beauty of this system is that the hard part is already over. You are currently in the phase of conscious competence. You have to think about the stack. You have to remind yourself to read instead. But soon, you will enter the phase of unconscious competence. Habits, once established, become invisible. You won't have to force yourself to ignore the phone. You will simply prefer the book. The read instead reflex will become as automatic as breathing. This is where the magic happens. The identity becomes self-reinforcing. Every time you finish a book, you cast a vote for the person you want to be. You look at your stack of finished books and you feel pride. That pride fuels the next book. The friction disappears. You stop being someone who is trying to quit scrolling, and you simply become a reader. A reader doesn't need willpower to read, just like a surfer doesn't need willpower to go to the ocean. It is just what you do. It is who you are. Your first move. We are done with theory. It is time for the final action. Do not close this book and say, "That was nice. I'll start on Monday." Monday is a lie. The only time you have is right now. Here is your instruction. First, build your stack. Right now. Go to your bookshelf or your e-reader. Pick 3 books. 1 anchor, something hard. 1 comfort, something easy. 1 practical, something useful. Put them in their designated places. Put the anchor on your desk. Put the comfort book on your pillow. Put the practical book in your bag or on your phone's home screen. Second, clear the path. Take the social media app that steals the most of your time and move it into a folder off the home screen or delete it entirely. Do it while your pulse is still racing from reading this. Create the friction. Third, make a micro-commitment. Decide that today, before your head hits the pillow, you will read for 10 minutes. Just 10. But do not do it because you have to. Do it because you are casting the first vote for your new life. The final challenge. You have a choice to make, and you have to make it every single day for the rest of your life. The world is going to keep getting noisier. The algorithms are going to get smarter. The notifications are going to get more urgent. They are betting on your weakness. They are betting that you will take the path of least resistance. They are betting that you will sell your attention for cheap thrills until the day you die. Prove them wrong. Reclaim your mind. Treat your attention like the sacred, non-renewable resource that it is. Refuse to be a passive consumer of digital noise. Choose the difficult pleasure over the easy numbness. The next time you feel that twitch in your hand, the one that wants to pull you back into the loop, remember who you are. You are not a scroller. You are a reader. The screen is dark. The page is waiting. Turn it.